Tekst dla ozvučky, micro-asceticism, tiny daily practices that rewire your nervous system. What if I told you that taking a cold shower for just 30 seconds could literally change the structure of your brain? Not in some mystical, unscientific way, but in a real, measurable, neurological way that scientists can actually see on brain scans. And what if that's just the beginning? What if there are dozens of tiny practices, things that take less time than scrolling through your phone, that can fundamentally rewire how your nervous system responds to stress, discomfort, and challenge? Most people think that real change requires massive effort. They think you need to meditate for hours, run marathons, or completely overhaul your life. But that's not how your nervous system works. Your brain doesn't care about grand gestures. It cares about consistency, about patterns, about the small signals you send it every single day. And this is where micro-asceticism comes in. Asceticism sounds like this ancient, extreme thing, right? Monks living in caves, people fasting for weeks, self-denial to the point of suffering. But micro-asceticism is different. It's about tiny moments of chosen discomfort, strategic little challenges that you integrate into your daily routine. And the science behind why this works is absolutely fascinating. Let me explain what's happening in your brain right now. Your nervous system has two main modes. There's the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, and the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest mode. Most of us are stuck in sympathetic overdrive. We're constantly stressed, constantly reacting, constantly overwhelmed. Our nervous systems are like car alarms that go off at the slightest touch. Everything feels like a threat. A difficult email feels like a predator. An uncomfortable conversation feels like danger. Your brain can't tell the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat, so it treats everything like an emergency. Now here's what's incredible. When you voluntarily expose yourself to small, controlled doses of discomfort, something remarkable happens. You're essentially training your nervous system to distinguish between actual danger and mere discomfort. You're teaching your brain that discomfort doesn't equal death, that you can handle hard things, that you have agency over your responses. This isn't just psychology, this is neuroscience. Studies show that regular exposure to mild stressors actually increases your vagal tone, which is basically your nervous system's ability to calm itself down. It's like doing push-ups for your stress response. Let's talk about the first micro-ascetic practice, and it's probably the most powerful one. Cold exposure. I'm not talking about ice baths or jumping into frozen lakes, although those work too. I'm talking about 30 seconds of cold water at the end of your shower. That's it. 30 seconds. But those 30 seconds are doing something profound. When cold water hits your skin, your body goes into immediate alert. Your sympathetic nervous system fires up. Your heart rate increases. You want to escape. Every fiber of your being is screaming at you to get out. But here's the key. You don't get out. You stay. You breathe. You tell your nervous system, we're okay. This isn't danger. This is just discomfort. And in that moment, you're creating new neural pathways. You're literally teaching your brain that it can stay calm even when things are uncomfortable. Research from the Netherlands shows that people who do regular cold exposure have significantly higher levels of norepinephrine, which improves focus, mood, and immune function. But beyond the chemistry, you're building something even more valuable. You're building trust with yourself. Think about it. How many times a day do you avoid discomfort? You hit snooze instead of getting up. You scroll your phone instead of doing the hard task. You avoid the difficult conversation. You choose the easy path over and over. And every time you do, you're sending your nervous system a message. You're saying, we can't handle hard things. We need to avoid. We need to escape. But when you stand in that cold water, when you breathe through it, when you prove to yourself that you can handle it, you're sending the opposite message. You're building evidence that you're capable. You're developing what psychologists call distress tolerance. The second practice is even simpler. Delayed gratification, but in the smallest possible doses. Here's what I mean. You're thirsty, really thirsty, and there's water right in front of you. Wait 60 seconds before you drink it. That's it. 60 seconds. Or you're hungry and about to eat. Wait 2 minutes. Just sit with the hunger. Don't make it torture. Don't starve yourself. Just pause. Just create a tiny gap between the urge and the action. This sounds so simple that people dismiss it, but this is where the magic happens. In that gap, in that pause, you're exercising your prefrontal cortex. You're strengthening the part of your brain responsible for self-control, for delayed gratification, for impulse regulation. There's a reason the famous marshmallow experiment predicted so much about children's future success. It wasn't about willpower in some vague sense. It was about the ability to tolerate discomfort, to sit with wanting, to not immediately react to every urge. And just like a muscle, this gets stronger with practice. Every time you create that pause, you're building neural circuitry. You're increasing the density of gray matter in your prefrontal cortex. You're literally making yourself more resilient at the neurological level. And the beautiful thing is, this transfers. When you practice delaying gratification with water or food, something trivial, you're building the same circuitry that helps you not react in anger, not send that impulsive text, not make that emotional decision you'll regret later. You're training your nervous system to be the one in control, not your impulses. The third practice is about physical discomfort, but not in the way you think. It's about posture and stillness. Sit in a chair, back straight, feet flat on the floor, hands on your knees, and don't move for 5 minutes. No adjusting your position, no scratching an itch, no checking your phone. Just sit. Just be still. And notice what happens. Within the first minute, something will start to itch. Your back will want to slouch. You'll feel an overwhelming urge to move, to adjust, to do something. This is your nervous system testing you. This is your brain saying, surely we don't have to do this. Surely we can move. Surely this isn't necessary. And every time you don't move, every time you sit with that discomfort, you're teaching your nervous system something profound. You're teaching that urges don't have to be obeyed. Those sensations don't have to be acted upon. That you have space between stimulus and response. This is what meditation teachers have known for thousands of years. But now we have the neuroscience to explain why it works. When you sit still despite discomfort, you're activating your anterior cingulate cortex, the part of your brain that helps you override automatic responses. You're building what neuroscientists call cognitive control. And this might be the most important skill you can develop in the modern world. Because we're surrounded by stimuli, by notifications, by urges, by impulses, and most people are just reacting. But when you've trained yourself to sit still despite discomfort, you've given yourself a superpower. You can choose your responses. You're not at the mercy of every sensation, every urge, every impulse. The fourth practice is auditory discomfort, and this one is really interesting. Spend 10 minutes in complete silence. No music, no podcast, no TV in the background, no phone, just silence. For most people, this is genuinely difficult. We're so used to constant stimulation, constant input, constant noise, that silence feels wrong. It feels uncomfortable. Your mind starts racing. You start feeling anxious. You want to fill the space with something, anything. But here's what's happening in your brain during silence. Your default mode network activates. This is the part of your brain that handles self-reflection, memory consolidation, and creativity. It's the part that makes connections, that processes experiences, that generates insights. But it only turns on when you're not constantly consuming input. When you're always listening to something, always watching something, always scrolling something, you're never giving this network a chance to function. You're starving your brain of the processing time it needs. Silence is uncomfortable because it forces you to be with yourself, with your thoughts, with whatever you've been avoiding. But that discomfort is the point. That's where growth happens. Neuroscience research shows that people who regularly spend time in silence have increased gray matter in their hippocampus, the area responsible for learning and memory. But beyond that, you're building tolerance for being alone with yourself. You're proving that you don't need constant distraction. You're developing an internal locus of control instead of an external one. The fifth practice is social discomfort, and this one hits different for everybody. Make eye contact with a stranger and hold it just 1 second longer than feels comfortable. Or say no to something you'd normally say yes to out of obligation. Or speak up in a meeting when you'd normally stay quiet. Small moments of social courage. Your nervous system perceives social rejection as a legitimate threat. This isn't a bug, it's a feature. For most of human history, being rejected from the tribe meant death. So your brain treats social discomfort as danger. But in the modern world, this response is wildly overactive. You're not going to die if someone doesn't like your opinion. You're not going to starve if you make eye contact with a stranger. But your nervous system doesn't know that. It's still running ancient software. When you deliberately expose yourself to small social discomforts, you're updating that software. You're showing your nervous system that social discomfort doesn't equal danger. And research on exposure therapy shows that this works. The more you expose yourself to something that triggers anxiety, the less anxious you become. Your amygdala, your brain's fear center, literally becomes less reactive. You're desensitizing yourself to social threat. And the confidence that comes from this is real. It's not fake it till you make it positivity. It's neurological evidence that you can handle social discomfort. The sixth practice is about breaking comfort routines. Take a different route to work. Sit in a different spot at the dinner table. Use your non-dominant hand to brush your teeth. These seem trivial, but they're not. Every time you do something the same way, you're reinforcing the same neural pathways. You're literally grooming your brain into patterns. And while patterns are efficient, they also make you rigid. They make you resistant to change. They make you fragile. When you deliberately break patterns, even tiny ones, you're forcing your brain to create new pathways. You're increasing neuroplasticity. You're making your brain more adaptable, more flexible, more resilient. Studies on neuroplasticity show that people who regularly expose themselves to novelty, even in small ways, maintain better cognitive function as they age. Their brains stay more flexible. But beyond the long-term benefits, you're training yourself to be comfortable with change. You're teaching your nervous system that different doesn't equal dangerous. Now here's the thing that ties all of this together. These practices aren't about suffering. They're not about punishing yourself. They're about building a different relationship with discomfort. Because discomfort is not your enemy. Discomfort is information. It's feedback. It's your body communicating with you. And when you've trained yourself to listen to discomfort without immediately reacting to it, without immediately trying to escape it, you become incredibly powerful. Think about the most successful people you know, the most resilient people, the people who stay calm under pressure, the people who can handle uncertainty, the people who don't fall apart when things get hard. What do they all have in common? They have a high tolerance for discomfort. They've trained their nervous systems not to treat every challenge as a catastrophe. And that's exactly what micro-asceticism builds. The beauty of these practices is that they're cumulative. One cold shower doesn't change your life. But 30 days of cold showers? That starts to rewire your nervous system. Delaying gratification once doesn't matter. But doing it 10 times a day for a month? That builds neural circuitry. Sitting still for 5 minutes doesn't seem significant. But doing it every day for 3 months? That fundamentally changes how your brain responds to discomfort. And here's what people don't talk about enough. These practices create a positive feedback loop. When you prove to yourself that you can handle small discomforts, you start seeking out bigger challenges. Not because you're a masochist, but because you trust yourself. You know you can handle it. You have evidence. You've built a track record with yourself. And that trust, that self-efficacy, that becomes the foundation for everything else in your life. People talk about confidence like it's this mysterious quality some people have and others don't. But confidence isn't a personality trait. Confidence is evidence. It's the sum of all the times you did something hard and survived. All the times you were uncomfortable and didn't fall apart. All the times you faced something difficult and came out the other side. And micro-asceticism is how you build that evidence, one tiny practice at a time. Let me tell you what happens when you don't train your nervous system. You become increasingly fragile. Every little thing feels like a crisis. Every discomfort feels intolerable. You need everything to be perfect, comfortable, and easy, or you can't function. You develop what's called low distress tolerance. And in a world that's inherently uncertain, inherently uncomfortable, inherently challenging, low distress tolerance is a recipe for suffering. But when you've trained your nervous system through micro-asceticism, the opposite happens. Things that used to feel overwhelming start to feel manageable. Discomfort that used to derail you becomes just information. Challenges that used to trigger panic become interesting problems to solve. You develop what psychologists call psychological flexibility, the ability to stay present and effective even when things are hard. And this might be the most valuable skill you can develop in the 21st century. So let me give you a practical framework. Start with one practice. Just one. Maybe it's 30 seconds of cold water at the end of your shower. Do it every single day for 2 weeks. Don't add anything else. Don't try to optimize it. Don't make it complicated. Just build the habit. Let your nervous system adapt. Let the neural pathways form. After 2 weeks, add a second practice. Maybe it's the 60-second delay before drinking water. Again, do it consistently. Every day, multiple times a day. Let it become automatic. Let it become part of who you are. After another 2 weeks, add a third practice. Build slowly. Build deliberately. Build sustainably. The goal isn't to become some superhuman who loves discomfort. The goal is to become someone who isn't controlled by the need for comfort. Someone who can stay centered when things are hard. Someone who has agency over their responses. Someone who trusts themselves to handle whatever comes. And here's the really exciting part. Once you've built this foundation, once you've rewired your nervous system through these micro-practices, bigger challenges become possible. Starting that business doesn't feel so scary. Having that difficult conversation becomes doable. Taking that risk becomes conceivable. Because you've built the nervous system capacity to handle discomfort. You've proven to yourself, at the neurological level, that you can do hard things. This isn't motivation. Motivation is fleeting. This is deeper. This is structural. This is changing the actual hardware of how your brain and nervous system function. This is building resilience from the ground up. So here's my question for you. What's one micro-ascetic practice you're going to commit to starting tomorrow? Not eventually, not when you feel ready, tomorrow. What's the one tiny discomfort you're willing to choose to rewire your nervous system? Drop it in the comments. I want to know what you're going to try, and I want you to come back in 2 weeks and tell me how it went. Because here's the truth. You are far more capable than you think you are. Your nervous system is far more adaptable than you realize. You can fundamentally change how you respond to stress, to discomfort, to challenge. But it requires action. It requires practice. It requires choosing discomfort when comfort is available. And that choice, repeated daily, changes everything. Your nervous system is waiting to be trained. Your brain is waiting to build new pathways. Your capacity for resilience is waiting to be developed. The only question is, are you willing to be uncomfortable for 30 seconds a day to get there? If this video gave you a new perspective on discomfort and resilience, hit that like button. It helps more people discover these ideas. And if you want more content on practical psychology, neuroscience, and how to actually change your life at the structural level, subscribe to the channel. Because we're just getting started. There's so much more to explore about how your brain works and how you can work with it instead of against it. Remember, discomfort is not your enemy. Avoidance is. Start small. Start tomorrow. Start with 30 seconds of cold water. Your future self will thank you.